All right, sweet. Flatline MMA podcast episode number 52. Special guest, our boy Zach. Not on video, but you get to hear that pretty voice of his. Boys, let's talk some fights because it's been a month of just ridiculous fights, ridiculous knockouts. Couldn't be more happy with what the UFC has been doing. Let's do a little recap. Last week, we had UFC Fight Island 6. We had headlined Ortega taking on Korean Zombie, just to kind of go through some of the, cool shit that happened on the card. We had some great fights. Thomas Almeida, Jonathan Martinez edging out with the decision win there. James Krause taking on Claudio Silva, a really dominant win for James Krause there. We have a ridiculous knockout by Jimmy Crute, someone who's really big and up and coming in the light heavyweight division. Monster KO, SportsCenter top 10 KO. And then we had kind of a women's flyweight co-main where we had Jessica Andrade taking on Caitlin Chikagian. Andrade just looked really good. New weight class for her, coming to flyweight. She made a statement taking out the number one contender there. I guess just your guys' opinions real quick on this one. After seeing that, is she kind of like, obviously she just beat the number one contender. I know she's just new in this weight class. Does she deserve a shot at Valentina for the next title? Just because I feel like Valentina's been lacking in contenders, and Andrade definitely has that like one-shot KO power that like could potentially put Valentina in some danger. But do you guys think that's too soon? Unfair to everyone else in the division? But like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, her performance the other night was awesome. I mean, she was winning that whole first round for the most part, and then finishes the number one in the first round. So, and like you said too, like we talked about this before. Like Shevchenko really doesn't have anyone else to fight other than, like, we would like to see the Nunez fight again, but she's 0-2 against her. So I think it would make sense to have Andrade step in.
Yeah. I mean, just after that performance too, that just vicious body shot, like that's what she's known for, man. She puts people away, and she did it, on a really big stage. So I don't see a problem with it. I know we had Lauren Murphy, who is fighting at UFC 254 this weekend. She said she's got to get in the back of the line. She needs a couple more wins, but I personally disagree with that. Great performance by Andrade in a new weight class. So congrats to her. And let's get to the main event, guys, because I don't think any of us predicted this when we had the show last week. Me and you were so far off, it wasn't even funny. Brian Ortega taking on the Korean Zombie. Brian Ortega coming off of a 2-year layoff, taking on one of the most dangerous guys in the featherweight division. We had, Brian Ortega it was night and day from the Max Holloway fight, guys. We had just such an impressive performance. I felt like these 2 years, sometimes fighters are just really just inactive. They don't fight. But you could tell that Brian Ortega really went back to the drawing board, and I think he focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was striking defense. Like, he just looked like a complete different fighter, man. Bald Ortega is like a mythical creature. You know what I mean? And he didn't let Korean Zombie do anything, man. And it was weird seeing that and seeing Zombie not be the one to push forward. And like, you could tell he was struggling. So, overall, what'd you guys think about that performance? Because that's, I think we're seeing Brian Ortega 2.0 here. T-City, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. So I know I took Korean Zombie in our picks last week, but right after I did that, I was thinking about Ortega when he lost to Holloway. He got rid of his entire team.
Yeah,
and that was something I kind of forgot about. He got, new boxing coach, new wrestling coach. He kept Gracie as his jiu-jitsu coach.
Yep.
He just built an entirely new team around him, and it worked out for him. Sometimes when people do that, when they switch camps, you never know how they're going to come out. He beat Korean Zombie at his own game. He mixed in a little bit of wrestling. You saw him go for some takedowns, but for the majority of the fight, it was on the feet. They were both striking, and Ortega was winning the majority of the exchanges. I think the only round that you could probably give to Zombie was probably round 2, but Ortega got the knockdown at the very end with the spin and elbow. So you have to give that give that round also to Ortega. So I forget how it got scored, but I said Ortega went 5-0.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, did you think he won 5-0? And I think the scores was 50-45. I think it was just complete domination. And you just got to go back to him just looking completely different, man. He was composed. His striking defense was just on point, man. Like, he took very minimal damage. I know me and you were texting during the fights. Took minimal damage against a guy who is known to inflict, a ton of damage on his opponents.
Yeah.
And I did like that he just didn't I kind of thought he was going to come out and just use his, jujitsu, try to get this to the ground. It was the complete opposite, man. He came to slug it out, to have a war. And he just looked so impressive, man. And, we don't see Zombie like that most of the time. So it was frustrating because, everyone loves Zombie, and I don't know if he just didn't pull the trigger or, what was going on there. It definitely didn't look like it was himself in there, but you got to give credit to Ortega for just having such a good game plan, taking those 2 years and really redefining his skills. And what's crazy is this guy, we know how dangerous he is on the ground, but Brian Ortega, with striking, is a threat to every single person in that division.
Yeah.
So I know Dana White came out before the fight and said the winner of this will be the number one contender, will take on Alexander Volkanovski next. So it obviously is looking like T-City Ortega taking on Alexander Volkanovski for the next title shot. Kind of just early predictions, man. After seeing Ortega on Saturday night, do you think he kind of has a great chance of, dethroning Volk there, or what?
The way he looked last weekend, yeah, I would say his striking looked great. He mixed in the wrestling, awesome too. He wasn't putting himself in any risky situations. He shot when he felt comfortable. His jiu-jitsu, as we know, is incredible. I think Volk is going to have a really, especially with the size advantage that Brian Ortega has, he's going to be so much taller. His striking is probably going to be right on par with Volkanovski, and his jiu-jitsu, if Volkanovski goes for the takedown, that's going to be a huge threat in that fight. So I don't know. I think I'd take Ortega in that fight just based off of that last performance.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like, obviously Volk and Max have some history. People are talking about, potential trilogy. I think everyone's kind of done with that. Now, does it make sense to kind of maybe run back Max and Ortega one more time? Or do you think that's, I don't know, just to kind of make a statement there? And, if I'm Ortega, I want to run that back. I want to prove that I did really change within these last 2 years. Or do you think like we really don't need that?
Yeah, I don't think that's needed at this point, especially because Volk's last fight was against Holloway, not how many months ago. He's kind of been on the sidelines for a little while now, and that would just prolong it. Those are pretty much his two. I mean, they want to make the Holloway fight again, but well, Ortega would be the guy. What would be the fight for him? So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Ortega Volkanovski is the fight to make.
Yeah, and I apparently hearing that it's going to be sometime in February. So obviously a great way to kind of start off, 2021 there. And now just for Korean Zombie, some guy who was sitting in the 4th spot, right? I think he just moved to number 5 in the rankings today. Who's kind of a fun matchup for him you'd like to see next? Obviously, he kind of took a little bit of a beating there, but there's some awesome names out there. You got Josh Emmett, you got Calvin Kattar without a fight still. Anyone in particular you guys want to see fight the Zombie next?
Get the Kattar fight, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who he's already fought in this division. I know he's had the Yair Rodriguez fight. Trying to think of something like the up and comers because that was a title eliminator fight.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to see him, go anywhere under the top 10.
True.
But I see. So yeah, he knocked out Frankie Edgar. He knocked out Moicano. Yeah, I think like Emmett, Jeremy Stevens, Kattar would be a good fight for him. Yeah, I think any one of those three. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, I mean, the featherweight division stacks. So anyone he goes up against, and anytime Korean Zombie's in a fight, I think aside from, Saturday night, it's definitely fireworks. But still, he brings it, man. He's got a heart of a friggin' champion. That guy, I still don't know how he was standing after that spinning back elbow. I have no idea. That's why
Yeah.
they call him the friggin' zombie. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, great fight from both of these guys. Ortega looking like an absolute savage out there. Super excited to see this, his featherweight title shot there. Guy deserves it. So cool. UFC Fight Island 6 in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Another great event put on by Dana White and the UFC. And boys, let's get to the big boy. UFC 254 this weekend, headlined by the undefeated Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on the interim champion Justin Gaethje for the lightweight strap. I could talk about this one for 3 days. Let's just get started because the card here is definitely really impressive. We got started off light heavyweight. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Ion Cutelaba. Third time's the charm. These guys just keep getting COVID. We all know what happened in the first fight. Probably one of the most controversial stoppages, I'd say, in history. And I'm just excited to see these guys run it back. Don't really have to get too much. And I know we talked about this one, I think, 4 different times. Quick predictions. Who do you guys got in this one?
I'm gonna go with Cutelaba on this one, just because of the controversial ending of that first fight. I think he's gonna have something to prove, and I think he's probably a little angry and upset with that first one.
Zach, what do we got?
I'm gonna go with Ankalaev just because I thought he was landing some good, solid shots in the 1 minute of the fight we've seen. So that'll be my pick.
Yeah, it's a tough one to choose. Obviously, both of these guys, absolute savages. I'm going to go Ankalaev, too. I think he just showed a lot in that first fight that, he's going to come off of blood in this one. This has been rescheduled so many times. I cannot wait to see this one. So a light heavyweight scrap for the ages, potential fight of the night right here, potential knockout of the night right here. We're going to see this.
What did you guys think of that stoppage of the first fight? Because I watched it again right before this, and Cutelaba was doing this weird noodle body thing, where he looked like he was shook, but he was still kind of in the fight. I mean, I probably wouldn't have stopped it at that point, but I don't understand what Cutelaba was doing.
I don't know either. I think he was rocked, and I don't know if he was using that as trying to as a ploy, but he even said it in his post fight shit. He was like, "I was fine. I was just fucking around." But it's dude, you can't do that in a fight. I didn't think in any way. I thought he was hurt when he was doing that, but I mean, he was still throwing. He was still swinging. Obviously, I wouldn't have stopped that fight either. I don't think you stop the fight when it's on the feet like that, unless you're up against the cage, where Nunes was beating the shit out of Rousey. Then you stop it, right? But they were in the middle of the octagon, just trading. So obviously, I didn't agree with it. But Zach, what about you?
I wouldn't have stopped it because it just looked like he was rocked. But I think it's kind of his own fault if he's gonna fuck around and pretend to be hurt.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't have even if he was hurt, it shouldn't have been stopped because I don't think it was at that point yet. But can't say he's not without blame.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully, we got a ref in there that's willing to let these guys just absolutely bang, because I need to see a killer knockout here. Next couple of fights, we got Lauren Murphy, Jacob Malkin. We'll just go right to kind of the heavyweight fight here. Alexander Volkov taking on Walt Harris. Really interesting one. I think this is a great heavyweight matchup. You got Alexander Volkov coming off of a loss to Curtis Blades. And then we have Walt Harris, obviously, coming off of a loss earlier this summer to Alistair Overeem. So both these guys got something to prove. They need a big win here. The heavyweight division is kind of always looking for new blood right now with, with DC retiring, Stipe, continue to hold on to that belt. He's going to need new challengers. So I want to see this division moving. What do you guys think about this one? Because I think it's pretty interesting. Obviously, Volkov's fought, a ton of guys in this division. Huge. He's a humongous guy. But Walt Harris, very big, very athletic. Obviously coming off of you know, kind of a devastating loss with everything that happened with him, to Alice, you know, with his daughter, and then fighting Overeem, you know, not too much after it happened. So I think he's probably in a better mental state here. And I think we're going to see kind of an overall improved Walt Harris here. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty tough fight for Harris. I think overall Volkov is probably the better martial artist, but Harris does have the advantage in the power department. So I think early on in the fight, Harris has a pretty good shot, but I think towards, you know, after the first round, I think Volkov, just his technique, his experience would probably take over, and I think he probably gets the win.
Yeah. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. I think it's going to be similar to the Lewis fight, but minus the, you know, last minute KO. So I think Volkov will just pick him apart. Especially because I don't think Harris will mix it up and be able to shoot in on him. I think that he'll just pick him apart. He's got the range. That's how I see it going.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think, you know, overall, like Kev said, I think Volkov's just all around just more technical. And I think we're going to see him pick him apart. But I think it's going to go similar to the Overeem fight that Walt Harris was just in. He had success early, but then, you know, towards kind of, you know, the later rounds, it, you know, gassed out a little bit, saw his technique go away. And we saw Overeem overall, you know, get the finish there. And I think that's what's going to happen. Volkov's just a super technical guy. So, but that's going to be a great fight overall. So excited to see there. I think the consensus is Alexander Volkov. Next up, we got the co-main event, guys. I'm super friggin' stoked about this one. You can't ask for a better co-main event. You got Robert the Reaper Whittaker taking on Jared Killer Gorilla Cannonier. This fight has Fight of the Year written all over it. You got two of the scariest guys in that division, two guys who are durable, who can knock you out with one punch. Friggin' Jared Cannonier was fighting heavyweight a couple of years ago. He's absolutely shredded now. Robert Whittaker, obviously former champion in that division. He's coming off of, you know, a pretty big win over Darren Till, you know, after he lost his belt to Israel Adesanya. So it was good to see he was in a great place there. He looked great against Till, you know, and I think, you know, you got Cannonier, who's on an absolute tear right now, 3 straight wins over some great guys, David Branch, Anderson Silva, and then starching Jack Hermanson. 3 really solid guys. So what do you guys think of this one? Because, again, you can't ask for a better co-main event.
Yeah, I mean, I think Whittaker's great. I have a hard time picking against him, but we do tend to see him put to the canvas in most of his fights. He usually gets knocked down. He puts himself in some risky situations, and Cannonier's got some crazy power in his hands. I'm still gonna pick Whittaker just based on his heart, based on his fight IQ, but there is that caveat that Whittaker puts himself in some risky situations, and I could see Cannonier maybe even knocking him out, finishing him.
Yeah, I'm gonna, for that same reason, I agree that I think Whittaker, he definitely gets into dog fights. You look at like the Brunson fight. I mean, hell, both Romero fights. And I mean, I'm not saying that Cannonier's got more power than Romero, but Whittaker has taken, you know, a lot more damage since that fight. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, I think it's not going to be in his favor if it goes that way. So I love Robert Whittaker, but I'm picking Cannonier on this one.
Cannonier by knockout, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, I think if Cannonier is going to win, it's going to be a knockout. I think otherwise it would just be Robert Whittaker picking him apart. Because Whittaker's definitely got the, you know, the more experience in the striking, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, see, this is where, you know, you take a look at kind of the resume of Whittaker, and man, he's just got more experience than Cannonier here, and that's where I think could play a pretty big factor. And, you know, we've obviously seen, you know, we saw Whittaker get knocked out, right? We've seen him get knocked out by Izzy, but we've also seen him take, you know, extreme damage from guys like Yoel Romero, and he's lasted in there, right? But, you know, Cannonier is definitely a different animal, man. This is a guy that was knocking people out at heavyweight. knocking people out at light heavyweight, and then coming down to middleweight and finally finding his groove, undefeated at middleweight. This is a guy that if he touches you, you're going to go down. So that's what worries me. But I think, Whitaker is going to keep himself out of that position. I think we might see some wrestling out of him. I think he knows that the power that Cannonier possesses, and I think we're going to see him try to stay away from that as much as possible. I think we're going to see him maybe piece him up on the feet, a couple takedowns in there. I cannot go against Whitaker. He's just such a likable dude, and I want to see him get another crack at Izzy, to be honest. And I know Dana said, again, this is another number one contender slot. We just gave our predictions, but I want to say if Whitaker wins, do you guys – I know Dana said it, but do you guys want to see that rematch again? And do you think the result will be different? Or should you guys be like, Whitaker wins, that's great, but like we kind of want to see someone else take a stab at Izzy? Or like, I don't know, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I mean, if Whitaker wins, then he earns the spot, but it's not a fight that really excites me either, just based on how dominant Izzy was in that first fight.
Yep.
I think one that I'd really like to see is Till versus Adesanya.
Yep.
But then again, Till's coming off a loss, and he beat Gastelum in some say a pretty closely contested fight. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be super jacked up about that fight, but I would see why they would make it, because Whitaker would deserve it at that point if he does win.
Yeah. Now, Killer Gorilla wins. Jared Cannonier, let's say he wins. Is that a favorable matchup for Izzy? Because I feel like we're kind of looking at a very similar style to Costa, right? And we saw what Izzy did there. Or do you guys think that he poses kind of a bigger threat? Because to me, I see Izzy kind of walking through Cannonier pretty easily, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he deals with guys that they have that blitzing style pretty well. I mean, look what he did to Brunson. He just let him around the cage the entire time when Brunson was coming straight at him. And I think that Cannonier would be a similar thing where he can just keep him at range and then find that knockout punch. So I definitely agree that Cannonier. I mean, Whitaker's definitely a more interesting matchup for a rematch than with Izzy than Cannonier would be. But I mean, I'll take both, man. I'd love to see either fight.
Yeah, I think Izzy's hoping for Cannonier. I know he called him out his last fight. He said, Jared Cannonier, if you dismantle Robert Whitaker, you're next. Obviously, that's good. He wants fresh blood. And obviously, Cannonier does pose that one-punch knockout power. But to be honest, I just see it going the same way. I think Izzy just has a really, I think it's going to be another night of easy work for Izzy, to be honest. But we'll focus on this fight because this is going to be, I think it's going to be an absolute brawl. I hope this goes the distance because I just want to see these guys leave it all out there. So potential fight of the night. Do not miss this one because it is going to be a slugfest. And then, guys, let's get to the main event of the evening. We get the lightweight title fight between Khabib, the Eagle, Nurmagomedov, taking on Justin Gaethje, the interim champ. Guys, this is for all the marbles. People say that this is Khabib's toughest test. You got Khabib coming off of, his last fight with Dustin Poirier. He had the submission, really kind of made it look easy. A little bit of adversity when he got put in the guillotine, but, Khabib said he'll never tap. So, after that, Dustin was tired. Khabib capitalized like he always does and got the rear naked choke. And then we got Justin Gaethje coming off the biggest win of his career, the most impressive win of his career, dismantling Tony Ferguson, finishing Tony Ferguson, and made it look easy, man. It was a great fight overall, but he made it look friggin' easy. And I think that's scaring a lot of people. But quick overview, what do you guys think of this fight? Do we see and new? Do we see and still? Overall, what do you guys think of the fight?
Yeah, I think this is the best fight that they can make at this division. I think this is going to be the toughest fight in Khabib's career, and this is definitely going to be the toughest fight in Gaethje's career. They both pose, threats to one another. Where Khabib's just been so dominant, we all know his game plan going in is to take him down, ground and pound, possibly go for a submission. Just wear his opponent down over time. And Same thing with Gage. I mean, he's been pretty clear on what his game plan is just through his whole career. He wants to stand. He wants to stand and trade. Um, the leg kicks, the calf kicks are a huge thing for him, which I could see, playing a role in this fight. Um, Everyone talks about his wrestling. We haven't seen much. We haven't seen any of that in the UFC. A big question for me with him is his jiu-jitsu game. I have no idea how he's gonna do off his back. So that's my biggest worry for Gaethje. I think he's probably win on the feet, probably score some nice calf kicks, slow Khabib down. But he's going to end up on his back or end up on the mat at some point, and kind of how he reacts to that is the biggest question in my mind. And I think that's going to determine the fight, because if he goes with the traditional wrestling, he's going to try to post up, give up his back to try to get back to his feet. And I don't know how good his jiu-jitsu is. I'm going to assume it's not on Khabib's level. So if he tries to pull guard, I think he's just going to get pounded. So that's the biggest question in my mind.
If he can get up.
Yeah, and can he even get up? If he does try to go for a traditional, wrestling stand-up, is that going to work? Is Khabib going to have an answer for that? So I don't know. I'm leaning towards Khabib winning this fight. I'm a huge Gaethje fan, so I'm going to be rooting for him. I think he's got avenues where he can win. If he, in the Ferguson fight, he slowed everything down. He abandoned his old self, where he just kind of come out like a banshee, throwing everything and just kind of wears opponents down. I think he's going to have to bring his old self back to try to win those early rounds and take Khabib out early.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, and I was going to say the same thing. It's that, everyone's talking about this Justin Gaethje 2.0 slowing everything down, but I agree 100%. I think he needs to come out like the old Gaethje, and that's the only way he's going to win this fight, is that if he comes at Khabib, pressures Khabib, and goes for that early knockout. I just don't see a scenario in which, and you know what? I could be wrong. We said this in the Tony fight. We said that if this went into the deep water in the Tony fight, that Tony was going to maul him. Tony was going to take his back. Tony was going to submit him. He was going to darce him. He was going to do whatever. So I could be wrong. But, I mean, the whole week leading up to, like, the countdown and all that stuff, something that Gaethje said that, like, made me think, like, this guy's going to win this fight, is he said, I never let anyone in my camp tell me that I'm the best, that no one's ever going to beat me, like all this. And he's like, Khabib's surrounded by yes men. Everyone's telling him that he's the GOAT. Everyone's telling him that he can't lose, that he'll never lose. And, like, I thought to that myself, and I'm like, he's so right. It's like, this kid, Gaethje's got nothing to lose here. Khabib's got a 28-0 record. He's got everyone, he's got a friggin' whole nation behind him that, like, adores him like a god. And Gaethje's like, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to ruin everyone's day. I'm going to ruin Dana's plan, Ali's plan. I'm going to ruin Daniel Cormier's plan. They all have this plan for Khabib to fight GSP next and all this stuff. And to me, I think Gaethje, his mindset is just right. And we don't know what Khabib's going to be like with his dad not there and him not training with his father. And I don't know, man. I've been so torn with predicting this fight. And it seems like an easy one, like you're going to say Khabib, but if you rule out Gaethje in this fight, you shouldn't even watch it on Saturday because you're going to be disappointed. But I digress. Zach, what's your prediction here?
So I'm going to disagree with you both on what the best game plan for Gaethje would be. I think that if his best plan is to let Khabib come to him, because you look at what in the Ferguson fight, every time Ferguson closed, man, he lit him up. I think Khabib's got to close on him. And I think that if he does what he did in the Ferguson fight, I mean, Khabib's also got to close not just for striking, but to take him down too. So I think that if he fights the way he did with Tony, number one, I'm worried it could be a boring fight if that's what happens. because I think that Khabib would be nervous to close that distance, and then we could get like 5 rounds if nothing happened. I hope that's not the way it goes. But I think the best way for him to fight would be similar to, similar to the Ferguson fight where he has to come in on him. But I mean, I'm gonna pick. I love Justin Gaethje. He's a madman, and I never would have thought that he would go from, where was he? He was in PFL. What was it called before it was PFL?
World Series of Fighting.
Going from World Series, and now, I mean, he had those 2 losses back to back, and now look where he is in the UFC. It's crazy. Never would have thought. But I'm gonna pick Khabib on this one. I think that he will be able to drag Gaethje down and just do what he's done to everybody else.
Now,
I don't think that Gaethje is going to be able to get up.
So yeah, that was my next question. Like, do you guys like we hear about Justin's wrestling, and it's like we really haven't seen it. He's hyping it up. He's like, I've been wrestling since I was 7. Do you guys believe that he can get up? Or I know Zach, you just said he probably can't, but Kev, do you actually believe that? We saw Al Iaquinta get up, right?
Yeah.
But he got taken back down. So like it's the matter of, yeah, maybe Gaethje can get up, but is he going to get taken down again? I put a poll on our Instagram and I said, how many takedowns will Khabib get? I did less than 3 or 3+. Like, what do you guys think? Is this going to be like, you guys think this is going to be, a Khabib decision where he's just taking down Gaethje at will, ground and pound, but he can't finish him? Or do you think this is going to be like, I don't know. Like, I'm so torn on like where I see the fight ending.
I think Gaethje's got a good chance of defending the takedown if his back isn't against the cage, or if he's not the one not in the center of the ring. If he's the one in the controlling the center, I think he's got enough room to scramble, to maneuver, and fight out of most of those takedowns. But where you see Khabib really shine is when he puts somebody on the cage. He's got 1,000 different ways to put you to the mat. So I think as long as Gaethje doesn't allow that to happen, he'll have enough room to scramble in the middle, and I think that's his best chance. But just looking at the stats, it's almost guaranteed that he's going to get taken down at some point.
Yeah.
What happens from there, who knows? A lot of people, they give a lot of credence to his wrestling. They think he'll be able to fight out of it to get up. My question is how is his jiu-jitsu? How is his guard going to be? Is he going to get passed? Is he going to get, mounted? I have no idea. So that's kind of a scary thing for me as a Gaethje fan.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's like we've just never seen him on the ground. And it's like, we know that what the game plan is going to be. He knows what the game plan is going to be. I'm assuming he's training it, but so has 28 other guys that have faced Khabib, and no one's been able to, to do anything. And all these promos, every time someone fights Khabib, this is the guy to do it. Dustin Poirier is great off his back. He's going to do this. Like, you know what I mean? It was just, I don't know, Conor. Don't stand with Conor. He's going to knock out Khabib. He stood with Conor in the 4th round, and he beat Conor at his own game. He knocked down Conor. Like, Khabib just surprises you every fight, and I feel like he's just getting better and better. I think a question that a lot of people are going to ask, and there's probably prop bets on this, does Gaethje cut Khabib? Are we going to see Khabib bleed for the first time in his UFC, in his whole career? Are we going to actually see a little bit of adversity and him, wipe off under his eye and be like, oh shit, I'm bleeding right now?
I think that's a possibility. I think that's as possible as Khabib taking Gaethje down. To be completely honest, like I think both of those things are going to be almost guarantees in this fight.
Yep.
I think Gaethje's going to land some vicious leg kicks to the thigh, to the calf, but when he does land, he usually does damage. I mean, he's not hitting anybody with any soft shots. Everything is with the intent to knock you out. So I think that's pretty probable in this fight.
Oh, I just can't wait. It's there's so many things like running through my head. I don't I like really don't have a prediction right now. It's like obviously, you know, again, huge Gaethje fan. Been watching him since the beginning. But it's like a guy like Khabib. It's like I want to see history. You know, I want to see him go undefeated his career. And it's just so hard to predict. But you know, at the end of the day, it's like Khabib has never really been in like that dogfight. And I think the question is Justin going to be that guy to make Khabib tired, to hit him with the leg kicks, right? To see his legs start bruising up, see him limping, right? How he can deal with adversity. And I think that's the biggest question here is like, are we going to see Khabib struggle at all? Like for the first time in his career, you know, take vicious shots. Like we saw him take, you know, 2 head kicks from Edson Barbosa and eat them and not even flinch. So it's like Khabib might have a friggin', you know, granite chin for all we know. So I'm just so excited to see these 2 guys duke it out. You know, regardless, I think it's history either way. You know what I mean? If Justin is able to be the first guy to take out Khabib, that's legendary. If Khabib beats Justin, which is my next question, I mean, is there much more that he has to do? You know, he's going to go down as one of the greatest. He's calling for a fight for GSP. You know, are you guys still interested in him and Tony? Are you guys still interested in him and Conor? If Conor gets past Poirier, like what's next for Khabib if he does get through Gaethje?
I mean, I think the Tony fight has to happen. I mean,
Gotta have.
there's so much interest in it. There's so many questions. You know, Gaethje is a huge threat to Khabib, but Ferguson poses so many different threats that I think, you know, playing to Khabib's strengths in a weird way, where Khabib likes taking people down. Ferguson is really good off his back. You know, in the clinch, Ferguson does all this crazy stuff. Like he does these somersaults. He's got like all sorts of weird submissions, you know, close range type stuff. I think that fight has to happen. We have to see it. We have to see it play out. You know, Gaethje, that was a short notice fight for him, for Ferguson as well. His Gaethje fight, not to make excuses, but that's, you know, an added factor. And Gaethje's not the greatest matchup for him as well.
Yep.
You know, Tony goes into fights. There's kind of like this you expect that he's going to take damage, you know, from the very onset of the fight. And he just wears people out. He's just more durable. With Gaethje, that's not a good game plan. That's not a good strategy. So I think for him, Gaethje is probably the toughest fight for him. But I think for Khabib, Ferguson might be the toughest match for him to make.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's a fight I still want to see. I don't care what happened in Tony's last fight. Tony is still one of the most dangerous guys in this division. He's still one of the, you know, pound for pound, I think, best in the world. And I want to see that next. I don't care what Khabib says. If he's like, oh, Tony got finished in his last fight. You know, we got to see that fight happen to cement his legacy. Flip side, Gaethje wins. I think do you think if Gaethje wins, let's say, you know, regardless of outcome, decision, knockout, does Khabib get the automatic rematch? Do you think Khabib retires? Like, I mean, he's got obviously his record, you know, he lost the whatever. And then do you think Gaethje just goes right for, you know, the winner of Poirier Conor? Is there someone else in line? Like, what do you think happens with everything in the division if Gaethje wins?
Yeah, I think it's just the outcome of the fight. You know, if Gaethje does win, if it's a split decision and it's closely contested, then I see the rematch. If he knocks him out or whatever, finishes him one way or another, or, you know, shuts him out 5-0, I think it's a different conversation because Conor's going to be fighting pretty soon.
Yep.
Poirier will be fighting. Ferguson's still in that conversation. We got Mike Chandler in that conversation now, who might even be fighting Saturday. We don't know for a fact.
I hope not.
He's going to be weighing in and everything. So um, I think it opens up the conversation for all these other guys to make a case for themselves. If Conor gets a knockout victory over Poirier, Poirier knocks out McGregor,
Yep.
but whatever. I mean, whatever happens, I think those guys are probably going to have better bargaining chips than Khabib would at that point, regardless of how dominant he's been.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question too is, if Poirier is able to get past McGregor and he gets this Gaethje rematch, we obviously saw what happened in the first fight with him and Gaethje. He put him away. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at Poirier right now. He's probably fuming like, listen, I put this guy away. He's got a chance at Khabib, and that's a fight I would love to see again. You know what I mean? If that's a title fight, whatever. Obviously, Gaethje's got to get past Khabib, but Zach, what do you think? If Khabib wins, how does kind of everything play out with him moving forward? And do you see if Khabib loses that 0, is he just retiring, or is he going to want that win back? Because there's really nothing for him to prove after that if he loses.
No, I completely agree with Kevin. If Khabib wins, there's only one matchup to make, and I don't care if Volcano fucking erupts, dude. They got to do Ferguson versus Nurmagomedov. If Gaethje wins, I don't know. It depends on the nature of the win, but if Gaethje finishes them, then I don't think it's worth. I don't want to see an immediate rematch. I think the lightweight's too stacked to do immediate rematches. But I don't think if Khabib loses, I don't think he'll retire. I think he'll still pursue those big money matchups like the GSP one, because that would still interest people. So
yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of the lightweight division, like you said, is so stacked. So there's so many, up and comers, so many matchups that I want to see. But guys, I can't wait. I haven't been this excited for a main event in a while. A lot of questions going to be answered. We're either about to have an undefeated 29-0, potential GOAT in the making here, or we're going to have just, Justin Gaethje, who's this guy who was in the World Series of Fighting, came into the UFC, lost 2 in a row, and then just went on an absolute tear and became the champion, and really is Gaethje 2.0. So I'm just curious to see who gets their hand raised. It's so hard to make a decision here, but I know the whole world's been going to be watching this. Dana White came out today, said the pay-per-view is trending ridiculous. He says it could be higher than McGregor Khabib, which I don't know how true that is, what he said. But who knows? We're in the middle of a pandemic. People want to see Khabib. He's one of the biggest stars in the world right now. So curious to see what this does for numbers. But I'm just excited for Saturday. Early start time. We have 10:30 fight start, then early prelims, 12 o'clock prelims, and then 2 Eastern is the pay-per-view. I like that. So UFC 254, stacked card, all-day event. Let's fucking get it, boys. What else we got?
That's it. I mean, actually, I was going to ask you, I saw everybody posting their fist on Instagram the other day.
Oh, yes.
No idea what that meant.
I don't know either.
Cater did it. Neil Magny, Sugar Sean.
Yeah.
And
Cody No Love did it today.
Cody. Masvidal. They all posted a picture of their fist with no context. So I have no idea what that means.
I don't know what it meant.
That was kind of a weird thing I noticed yesterday, though.
I looked it up on Twitter. No one had any answers. So I don't know if it's like this inside thing. But it was weird. I was going to post one of us, but I don't think we're as important. So I didn't want to do it. But, yeah, exciting October for the UFC. Guys, make sure you go buy that pay-per-view. It's going to be wild. Go support the boys. Click the link below to get your merch. Click the link below to get we have everything. Trifecta meals. We got CBD. We got Venom products. Go buy it so we can get bigger, make better content. Yeah, just go support the boys. Thank you, Zach, for joining the show today. And until next time, Flatline MMA. Peace.